Good day. Welcome to another day of mobility with the 5-pillar method. Today's focus is on the hips. Let's start by finding a nice comfy spot on your mat. Take some attention to your breath. Focus on good quality diaphragmatic breaths, directing that air deep. Feeling that belly rise in the inhale, and slowly letting it go through the nose on the exhale. Allow yourself to find a nice, relaxing state of calm. Just letting go of any stress you might have been carrying. Taking as much of your attention to your breath as possible. Just allow yourself to enjoy the moment. I'll take a few breaths with the focus on our target tissues. So on your next exhale, imagine just deflating through those quads, those thighs, those hamstrings. On your next breath, taking that attention into the hips, feeling those glutes get nice and soft, those hip flexors letting go of tension. And on your next breath, just imagine getting nice and calm through that low back, through your abs, and just sighing out any tension. Just allow that mind to settle into a nice state of relaxing, finding that pace of breath that helps you find that state of relaxing. We'll take one more breath here. Take your time letting go of that breath. We'll move into a left quad release. So grab yourself a lacrosse ball. We'll go face down and start by panning through that whole thigh, searching for where you're carrying tension today. And once you've found a good spot that needs some attention, experiment a little bit with how you're tackling that, the angle you're leaning on that ball, and then the amount you're leaning on that ball. You can go as easy into this or as aggressive into this as you want. Generally, a higher pressure will allow for a stronger release. So everyone's version of the quad release is going to look a little different. Just take a second and find that level of tension that your body's telling you it needs. We want enough tension that we're going to get some benefit, but not enough tension that we're getting into pain or letting anything else tense up around those quads. And doing your best to keep your breath sync to that target tissue. As your lungs let go of air, imagine just breathing out tension that might be sitting in those quads. And we'll take one more breath here, and we'll switch sides. So pan through that whole right quad. You may find it's tight in the same areas. You may find it's a little different because the hips do tend to rotate. Each side tends to carry tension in slightly different spots for some people. And once you've found that target area for this right side, again, experiment with the angle that we're tackling that target area and the amount of tension. And you can add to or take away from that tension just by how much you're centering your weight on top of that lacrosse ball. If you lean into that a little more aggressively with a little more tension, you'll get a little bit deeper tissue release. Just find that happy medium where you're getting that sensation, that pressure on that target tissue without getting any pain and without letting anything else tense up. And allowing that target tissue to settle down always starts between the ears. Mentally find your calm place using your breath. Allow that mind to help your body settle down. We'll take one more breath here. We'll sigh out that breath. And we'll move into the left hip flexor. So a little bit higher on that thigh area for this round. You might be right in the crease of the hip. You might be a little lower. Just settle into something in that general area that feels like it needs some pressure release. And that might be a trigger point. It might be a knot in that tissue. It might just feel stubborn today. Whatever that target is, just settle in. Focus on your breath. Help your breath calm your mind, and help your mind calm that target tissue. And turning off any muscle we don't need. Relaxing those muscles in your face, your head, neck. Those muscles in your feet, your hands. Just feel everything go limp. Just keep using the muscles that we absolutely need to hold this position. And let everything else just fall asleep. Mentally staying in your happy place and allowing yourself to enjoy the moment. We'll take one more breath here. As you let go of that breath, we'll move into the right side. So again, this right side could feel very different than the left. Pan through that tissue, search for what needs attention. Find the posture that we want to be in that's going to address that tension. Experiment with how much pressure we're applying. And then settle back to your breath. Mentally go into your happy place. Just find that state of calm. If you find counting your breaths or your breath count helpful, you can count your breaths. Feel free to use a box breath. That might be a 4 count in, a 4 count pause, 4 count out, 4 count pause. Might be a 2 count, it might be a 5 count, it might be a 10 count. The nice strategy about counting is you can be progressive and gradually slow the breath down as you work your way through. Let's take one more breath here. As you sigh out that breath, we'll move into some lumbar traction. And we're going to demonstrate our lumbar traction sitting off the edge of a box. So you can use a box, a tabletop, coffee table, wherever you have handy. And if you just sit the small of your back in the edge, and just let your legs get nice and heavy, all we're looking for is a subtle pressure release in that lower spine. And if we're getting any pain or discomfort here, just ease up on that tension. Find a version of this that allows you to relieve that pressure without any pain, without anything tensing up. And then settle back to your breath. We just want a really subtle pressure difference, a subtle separation between your upper and lower half. Let's take one more breath here. As you sigh out that breath, we'll move into a left side hip internal rotation. You start sitting on your butt with your knees bent up at 90 degrees, and then drop those knees off to your right and gently lean towards your left heel to target that internal rotation. And depending on your own anatomy, you may have to shuffle your position so this doesn't agitate the knee. You want to feel this almost completely in the hip. If you're getting any knee pain, shuffle your position, experiment with the hip angle, the knee angle, until you've found the right position to target your hip. And then once we're there, a couple of nice, deep, relaxing breaths. In a few seconds, we will get active. And as we get active, imagine pressing that left heel down into the floor. Let's go ahead. Starting with nice easy pressure. Slowly ramping up that pressure as we go. Finish by pressing with some good force, really squeezing, pressing down into the floor. 3, 2, 1. Let's gently reverse. Imagine pulling that heel up off of the floor. It may not come off the floor, but try as hard as you can to lift it. Let's add some tension as we go. Big tension here for the last 5, 3, 2, 1. Let's let go of that breath. Fall back into your passive position. Finding whatever stretch feels right. You may find after that little contract cycle that we're a little deeper into the stretch. If we're not, that's okay. Just continue to trust the process. Those hips will get there. Let's take one more long, slow, relaxing breath. Slowly sigh out that breath, and we'll switch to the right side. So dropping your knees off to the left side, gently leaning back towards your right heel to target that right hip. And again, if there's any pain or discomfort, just shuffle your position till you've got a position that works for you. We have a hard rule of not getting into pain. We want stretch, maybe a little bit of discomfort, but not pain. And then settle back to your breath. Help that tissue settle down. Help yourself submit to that position. And use your breath to help your mind find calm. And in about 10 seconds, we will gently get active through this right side. I imagine pressing your left heel down into the floor. And let's go ahead, starting with some nice, easy tension. Slowly ramping up that tension as we go. Let's finish with some good force, pressing down aggressively for these last 5, 3, 2, 1. Let's gently reverse. Imagine pulling that right heel up off of the floor or mat. Slowly ramping up tension as we go. Really squeezing here for these last 5, 3, 2, 1. Let's let go of that breath. Fall back in that passive position. Finding whatever level of stretch that hip feels it's okay with today. Turning off any muscle we don't need. Finding that nice, happy pace of breath that helps you find your nice relaxing state. One more breath here. Take your time letting go of that breath, and we'll move into a frog stretch. So if we come into tabletop and just spread the knees apart, allow those hips to sink close to your mat to target that inner thigh and groin area. And again, getting as passive as we can in that inner thigh and groin, turning off any muscle we don't need. This is a nice position. We don't really need much active to hold this position. Just imagine falling asleep in this position. Just getting a nice, easy, relaxing stretch through that inner thigh. And just live in your happy place. And in 10 seconds, we will gently get active through that inner thigh and groin. Imagine squeezing your knees closer together. And let's go ahead, starting with some nice easy force. Try pulling those knees closer together, slowly ramping up tension as we go. Really adding some big tension here to finish up. 3, 2, 1. Let's gently reverse. Trying to spread those knees further apart, starting with easy force and gradually increasing as we go. Adding some big tension here to finish up. 3, 2, 1. Let's let go. Get nice and passive. You may find again you're in a deeper position. And if not, just be patient. We'll get there. We'll get there when your body's ready for it. It's getting nice and passive here. Again, turning off any muscle we don't need. Let's take one more breath here. Slowly let go of that breath. And we'll come all the way up to tabletop for some bird dogs. We're just going to extend your opposite limb, starting with the right hand and left leg. Reach back with that left heel, right fingertips, pausing for a beat and switching. And as we reach, imagine maximizing the distance between your fingertips and your back heel, keeping your hips nice and square to the floor, and we'll keep switching back and forth. Squeezing those glutes as you reach, moving your arm into a nice overhead, fighting to get into those corners of range of motion. Take about one more rep here. And as you finish off this last rep, we will transition into some hip circles. So staying in tabletop, just start by pulling a knee in towards your chest, gently extending that knee out towards your left side, along the corners of your outer limits of range, panning back into full extension behind you, pressing that heel up to the sky, and then starting again. And each rep, just challenge yourself to come a little further into your end range and actually try to carve out new end range. And what can be helpful is giving a second wind. If you feel like you've hit a wall, just give it a subtle tug a little further, and you may find you can get a little further. And keep cycling through. Generally, the harder we work here, especially for these last few reps, the bigger benefit we get for the rest of the hip work we've done today. Let's really finish with some good force on this last rep, carving out that new range. And we'll switch sides. Just starting through that right hip in tabletop, pulling the knee into the chest, sending that knee out to your side, attempting to carve out your outer limits of range of motion, finishing by pressing that heel up to the sky, and starting again. And each rep, try to track how far you're getting, and each rep try to come a little further into your outer limits. And the harder we work here, the more benefit we get to increasing your range of motion and your hip stability. And the better hip stability we get, generally the less issues we have with low back, and the better we function overall. Let's give yourself some good force for this last rep. Really challenge yourself to find those outer limits. We'll transition into a squat position. So finding your natural squat width with your feet. If you're not sure, start around shoulder width. Just allow your hips to sink down towards your ankles into as low as you can get to, pain-free. And if getting all the way down to your ankles is painful, you can prop something up, sit on a pillow or a chair that allows you to get to your pain-free range. And we'll start to get active around the knee. So imagine squeezing through your quads to reverse this stretch through the thighs, slowly ramping up tension as we go, really squeezing through those thighs here to finish up. And let's gently reverse, now squeezing through the hamstrings, attempting to pull your hips closer to your ankles actively, ramping up tension as we go. Let's finish with some big tension here at the end. 3, 2, 1. Let's let go of that breath. Just sit into that squat in a nice, comfortable, passive position. Center yourself back on your breath. Finding that pace of breath that helps you find calm. Just submitting to the position. Let's take one more breath here. And as you sigh out that breath, we will call it a day. Thanks for joining us here with 5 Pillar Mobility. Hope your hips are feeling great. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to subscribe and like the video. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.